Meeting to order. It is 10:02 a.m., April 29th, 2025. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Good morning, everyone. Chairman Gaines.
Here.
Vice Chair Lieber.
Here.
Member Vasquez.
Present.
Member Schaefer.
Present.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Present.
Wonderful. A quorum is present and the board meeting is called to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Vice Chair Lieber will lead us. Thank you.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, members, it's opportunity for opening remarks, and why don't I just start on my left here, and if we could have Mr. Vasquez, any opening comments that you have?
Thank you, Chair Gaines. I'd like to open up with a few quick remarks. First, earlier this month, on April 10th, my county, LA County, officially proclaimed Dolores Huerta Day on April 10th to honor her 95th birthday. The labor leader and civil rights activist Dolores Huerta, who was acknowledged for her lifelong dedication to workers' rights, education, and social justice. The purpose was to honor her achievements and to encourage community participation in her volunteer efforts. Next, I'd like to recognize Earth Day. Was also April 22nd, to demonstrate support for protecting our environment. The first Earth Day on April 22nd, 1970, attended by 20 million people across the United States, strengthened support for legislation such as the Clean Air Act and Endangered Species Act. On Earth Day, and hopefully every day, we recognize it is not enough to simply hope for a brighter future for our children and our grandchildren. We must continue to take action every day to foster a healthier planet for all. Now I want to just note National Fair Housing Month, observed in April, commemorating the anniversary of the Fair Housing Act of 1968 that prohibits discrimination in housing based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, familial status, or disabilities. This annual observance is a time to raise awareness about fair housing rights and efforts to end housing discrimination. And last, I'll end with the Administrative Professional Day. Celebrates on April the 23rd. I'd like to thank all our dedicated, capable, and valued administrative employees throughout the BOE, this agency, and in the board, in our own separate board district offices as well, for their continued commitment and excellence and importance as we do our day-to-day work. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the chair.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you very much for those updates and recognitions. And we'll now move to Member Schaefer.
Thank you, Chair. I always have a birthday to mention, and today is a very special day. It's the birthday of William Randolph Hearst. I don't want to be stealing thunder from Member Lieber's district, but San Luis Obispo County is the home of Hearst Castle. And I put in a call this week in my little research to Tom Bordanaro Jr., who is our assessor there. I was not able to talk to him personally, but one of his staff members called me up and discussed the issue with me. It seems that we don't assess it or for tax purposes at all anymore because it's state property, but it's been valued at about $280 million in the past. It's in the little town of San Simeon that has about 500 people. If you want to take a tour of it, it's $35 for adults and $18 for kids. And the Hearst family has done so much for the University of California system. As you know, I'm a graduate of Berkeley. And it's interesting, while I didn't meet any of the Hearst family, I've talked to the household of Patty Hearst. She's alive and well in New York. And I was a classmate in in politics with Patty Hearst's attorney, Terrence Hallinan, the district attorney of San Francisco for many years. So I'm a great fan of what the Hearst family has done for America and especially for California. And this is the old man's birthday, and I want to salute him.
Well, thank you, Member Schaefer. Deputy Controller Emron?
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to my board colleagues and to members of the public, the executive director. Kicking off the month of April board meeting. So yesterday I got to join a very, very special day. It was the 14th annual Muslim Day at the Capitol, where over 1,000 school children from all across the state of California come to the Capitol to enjoy a full day of legislative sessions, meeting with their legislators, seeing how a hearing goes. And I got to speak to the young children about taxation and the world of taxation. And it was very, very inspiring day to see the young people. And I mentioned this time and time again, I was a school teacher before I went to law school. So it was always a pleasure to go speak to the young people and to see that California is in good hands. And then also, I just want to pay a big tribute to the Pope, and I want to wish him and his entire family in the congregation, may he rest in peace. He's an incredible man, spiritual leader. He taught us to take care of the poor, to take care of each other with respect and humility and integrity. And I got to watch some of the ceremony, his funeral procession over the weekend. It was very, very moving, and to see so many lives that he's touched, not only in the Catholic Church, but across every religion and creed. So my tribute to the Pope, and for everyone that's going through a hard time right now, my thoughts and prayers are with you all. Thank you.
Chair, I second the motion as to what he said about the Holy Father. I think we all owe a moment of silence for that.
Yeah, he had a big impact in his tenure, didn't he? Absolutely. Thank you. I'd like to take this moment to recognize a CHP officer, and his name is Eric Martinez. And I wanted to take opportunity to commend him for his kindness and professionalism in helping my family last week. It was just a circumstance where my daughter and her family were in Southern California over Easter. And on the return trip on the freeway, they ran out of gas. So not something you ever want to happen, and you want to be careful on calculating that amount of gas in your vehicle, right? But he didn't quite make it to the next gas station, and tired and stressed out, 3 kids. My daughter's pregnant, and of course her husband was there. But Officer Martinez found them and drove my son-in-law up to a gas station, filled the tank, and lo and behold, another officer came and parked right behind their car and remained there until the other officer returned with the gas. And I was just really impressed with that, and yet I see it happening over and over again. I also see a lot more enforcement of speeding, which actually is good as long as I don't get the ticket, right? But no, I think they're balancing enforcement with also just helping out folks on the road. Can't tell you how many times I've seen them changing tires for folks and getting gas and things of that sort. So I just wanted to take that moment and thank the CHP and in particular Officer Eric Martinez. And yeah, Vice Chair Lieber, you've got some comments to wrap up?
Yes, thank you, and I very much appreciate your comments. I'm so deeply appreciative of the job that our California Highway Patrol does. It's amazing, and most people do think of them as the folks who catch you speeding, but they also have a number of very protective duties of the public that they carry out, and also accident investigations, and really working very, very closely with local government, which is tremendously valuable. So I appreciate you recognizing them today. And I wanted to talk just for a couple minutes about our current situation for California. Today is the 100th day of the new federal administration. And I think we all know that things have really changed. But I just wanted to point out a few changes since our last meeting in March. The Orange County Register reported that at the end of March that Orange County will lose out on more than $68 million in federal earmarks for 2025. And this was money that was approved for projects like a community college's water science laboratory, local park revitalizations, and a new fire station that was needed for Fountain Valley. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention ended federal funding to California state and local governments for COVID vaccinations, surveillance of public health, and testing. The Environmental Protection Agency terminated 63 grants of over $260 million, which would have gone towards projects addressing childhood lead poisoning, air pollution, and health risks related to extreme heat and wildfires, which we know will continue to be prevalent in our state. Sacramento County schools are now facing cuts that include $63 million in special education, $403 million in title and COVID relief funding, and $92 million of Title I funds, which support low-income students and could result in the loss of 1,395 teachers in Sacramento County. We know that looming ahead are the impacts on California of 80,000 jobs cut from the Veterans Administration. And this board has, I think, very appropriately put a high emphasis on serving our veterans. California is the state where 28% of all veterans experiencing homelessness across the United States live. At UC Davis, a $54 million grant to study and track dementia and 1,700 patients was canceled. And this grant was part of a comprehensive 7-year study of diverse patients, 1/3 of them Latino, 1/3 Black, and 1/3 white, to detect early dementia risk before symptoms become dire. And UC Davis cuts were not alone. 100 research grants in California totaling nearly $312 million were canceled, and the full toll is yet unknown. Some federal facilities that are impending closures include the Indian Health Service in Arcata, the NOAA facility in Eureka, Food and Drug Administration in Long Beach, Environmental Protection Agency in Los Angeles, Forest Service in Mount Shasta, Farm Service Agency in Madera County, the Food and Drug Administration buildings in San Diego and San Clemente. And these are not just possibilities, they are very real and impending challenges. But to bring it right down to the ground level, and I know that I just have 1 or 2 minutes left here, I'd just like to point out that a Lending Tree survey that has just come out pointed out that 25% of individuals using the buy now and pay later ability on Lending Tree are funding grocery purchases with the loans. And we know that with current tariffs, food prices will go up dramatically. And they have nearly tripled in terms of people using those short-term loans simply to afford groceries. And there are several factors that I think will become very impactful for California. One of them are the dramatic cuts that have been proposed in Medicaid. And we usually don't think of Medicaid as directly impacting California, but our low-income workers who receive Medi-Cal, the funding is a return of the tax dollars that Californians send to the federal government and receive back. And there are many small independent businesses that are dependent on those federal services for those workers. So it's really a watershed time for California, and I hope that we can tease out that discussion more later today when we have our 1 hour hearing on the sustainability of our economics in California and how property taxes work into keeping our families whole. But we will obviously continue to do all the work that we can on the Board of Equalization to make sure that California works economically. We know that we just became the number 4 country in the world in terms of our GDP, but we really stand on the precipice of our economy here in California being strangled by tariffs and by other federal funding cuts. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, great. Ms. Cicchetti, can you please call our first order of business?
All right. Good morning. Our first order of business is our safety and informational announcements. Welcome to the Maylee State Office Complex. Our safety announcement in the auditorium, the exits are in the front on each side of the stage, and other exits are at the rear. Please take a moment to find the exit sign and location closest to you in an emergency. The emergency exits behind and to the side of the stage should only be used in case of an emergency. Our informational announcement. I want to remind the audience to silence your cell phones and other wireless devices. This meeting will be live streamed to the public and posted on the BOE website. Therefore, we ask all speakers in the auditorium and on the AT&T telephone line or in a teleconference to state their names before they begin to speak for the record. We ask that you speak clearly and slowly. Note that public comments are taken on each item. The public will be invited to comment on matters before the board. If there are any members of the public wishing to speak before the board on any agenda item in person, we ask that you complete and submit to the Sergeant of Arms a public comment appearance sheet located at the entrance of the auditorium. If you wish to speak before the board by telephone, please dial the phone number and access code provided on our public agenda notice and follow the instructions of the AT&T moderator. If you intend to make a public comment using the AT&T moderator, we recommend dialing in onto the meeting on the teleconference line before the beginning of your agenda item that you wish to comment on. We recommend this as the audio broadcast on our website experiences a 1 to 3 minute delay between the live stream and the live event. When giving public comments, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. This concludes the safety and the informational announcements. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Before we begin the day, I want to announce that we will take 2 agenda items out of order to accommodate the controller's schedule. Tax program matters, items 3 and 4 will be heard after item 10. Therefore, the order of items will be 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 3, 4, and then 11 through 19. The first item of the day is item 1, public comment on items that are not on the agenda. Persons who wish to address the Board of Equalization regarding items not on the agenda may do so under this item. Please note that the board cannot act on items that are not on the agenda. However, the board can schedule issues raised by the public for consideration at future meetings. When giving your public comment, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. It's my understanding we do not have anybody in the audience currently, and that we don't have any written comments. And so we'll go to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
Thank you. And if you would like to make a public comment, please press 1 and then 0 at this time. And sir, there's no one in queue.
Great, okay, thank you, moderator. Hearing no comments, we'll move on to the next item. That would be item 2, tax program matters, public hearing for public tax state assessees presentations on valuation of state assessed properties, presented by Mr. McCool.
Good morning, Chairman Gaines and honorable members of the board. My name is Jack McCool. I am the chief of the State Assessed Properties Division. I'm here to introduce the state assessees' presentations on the evaluation of state assessed properties. Under Property Tax Rule 903, the board provides state assessees with the opportunity to make public presentations regarding the valuation of their unitary property. Today is the second of 2 opportunities set aside for state assessees to come before the board and make presentations regarding matters affecting their annual valuation. These presentations are informational only and do not require any board action. I am not aware of any state assessees that are planning on making a presentation today. However, I will note that the State Assessed Properties Division staff has met with several state assessees already this year to discuss specific matters related to their valuations, and we will continue to make ourselves available to any state assessees that would like to meet with us. Thank you.
Thank you, that's it, huh?
That's it.
All right, well, thank you for your presentation, Mr. McCool.
Of course.
And we'll now, let's see, do we move to item 3? Is that correct?
We have to do public comment for Mr. McCool's presentation on
okay.
item number 2.
All right. Okay, we don't have any written comments on this item, nor is there anyone in the auditorium who wishes to make a public comment on this agenda item. Let's go to the AT&T moderator. AT&T moderator, please let us know if anyone's on the line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
Thank you. If you have a public comment for item number 2, please press 1, then 0. And at this time, no one is queuing up.
Okay, thank you, moderator. We'll now move to, we're going to jump to item 5, and that is adoption of the March 26, 2025 board meeting minutes. Members, would anyone like to make a motion on this item?
So moved.
Mr. Chairman, can I make an amendment to the minutes, please?
Oh, yeah, please. Okay, so we have a motion. We're waiting on a second with a comment regarding an amendment.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman. I would like to make one amendment to the minutes with the inclusion of a statement personally made by the controller that she had concerns about the board taking positions on bills without prior review, and would like to see protocol developed outlining the process by which the board can take actions on legislative matters.
Okay, is that it?
That's it. Thank
All
you.
right, wonderful. Is everybody in agreement to that amendment to the minutes? Okay, we've got a motion, and did we have a second yet?
Second, please.
Second, okay, wonderful. So we have public comment at this point. Any written comments on this? Or we do not have any written comments on this item. And no one is in the auditorium wishing to make a public comment on this agenda item. Therefore, let's go to the AT&T moderator. Please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
Thank you. If you'd like to make a public comment, please press 1, then 0 at this time. And no one is queuing up at this time.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Members, any discussion? Seeing none, Member Schaefer's made a motion to approve the 2026-2025 board meeting minutes with Deputy Controller Emron seconding. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Just to clarify that we're going to accept Mr. Emron's amendment to the motion, or to the minutes, excuse me.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
okay. The roll, Chairman Gaines,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you, members. We're now going to move to item 6, board governance, guidelines for presenting a legislative bill for board support, and Vice Chair Lieber is presenting this item. We'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, what you have before you is a proposed addition to our governance policy that would foster a system by which each request for action on legislation would include a memorandum submitted by the board member requesting the action that addresses the following: how the bill is within the BOE's jurisdiction, the germaneness to the BOE's mission, the policy issue that the proposed bill is addressing, the fiscal impact of the bill, if known, administrative impacts of the bill at the state and federal local level, if known, a link to the bill's text, and a link to the most recent bill analysis, if available, prepared by legislative committees, the Board of Equalization's Division of Legislative Research and Statistics, and any other relevant government agency analysis. And I'll say that I did receive the proposal that Mr. Vasquez has forwarded to us in terms of placement within the government, within our governance code, and also a request that we delete the proposed limit on the number of bills per meeting that one member can bring up. And I think that Mr. Vasquez's point is very well taken in terms of the dynamic nature of our state and the fact that response to natural disasters like fires can necessitate quicker action on a bill as being more favorable. And I would yield to him if he'd like to make any comments on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, Member Vasquez.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lieber, and I appreciate you taking that into consideration because, you know, just having gone through this last wildfire, there was, you know, I guess actually at our last hearing, we had like, well, I think Senator Ben mentioned there was like 30 bills, you know. At the end of the day, I think anything that has to deal with property tax, we should take it up. So putting a limit, you know, especially given these situations, and I don't think that's going to be the first and last, you know. It seems like, you know, whether it's a fire, earthquake, or some other disaster, I think it's our responsibility and our role as State Board of Equalization to address those property issues. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
Wonderful, great. Thank you. Member Schaefer, please.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think legally we can really have any limit on what's going to come up at a meeting because we are an open forum on whatever's going on. However, I do think this is a good idea, and I would propose it to be 2 bills instead of 3 bills. I would think we should be able to speak on our favorite 2 bills, and then I could ask Mr. Emron, he might want to speak on a couple that I'm not able to speak on. I think it's good that we try to limit the pontificating, would you will, of members. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you, Member Schaefer. Deputy Controller Emron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Member Lieber and Mr. Vasquez for their input here. The controller was very, very concerned about the process here, so I'm happy it's being shored up a little bit. I have a question on substantive amendments that could affect the board's position. How will we handle that as a board moving forward?
That's a very good question. And I think that part of it is addressed by the section of the proposal that talks about there not being spot bills up for consideration, and those would be the most likely to be substantively amended. And I do think that the legislation that's supported by the board, it's really the responsibility of the board to track it, because the legislative division of the agency does not track the bills that are proposed by the board. But that's part of the responsibility of the members that are here. And I see that Mr. Vasquez has a comment.
Yes, Member Vasquez?
Thank you. Actually, you raised a good point. I was just wondering, at the end of the day, we have a certain role, and maybe we can have our executive director come up, because I know we have a legislative person, a ledge person, and I know he has certain responsibilities and duties. I'm wondering, at some point, what role does that individual have in this, especially on the tracking? Because I think you're right, at some point, you get these bills that come to us and we support them, and then all of a sudden, well, Senator, when you're sitting on the floor, they're usually making changes and modifications, and we haven't had the opportunity to discuss that.
Yeah.
Is that something that staff could assist or on those? Because I get at the end of it should be our responsibility, but when it's happening, like tomorrow on the floor, we're kind of crippled.
Yvette Stowers, Executive Director for the State Board of Equalization. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Let's kind of back up. When the board votes to take a position to support or oppose a bill, my office prepares the letter of support, and it goes out under the current chair's letterhead. And that letter always says that the board voted, to say, for example, the board voted to support the bill as of this date. And we submit that letter on you guys' behalf. If the bill is later amended, even if amended on the floor, we are not tracking that. From the legislative research perspective, Mr. Angelo is charged with providing a bill analysis on various bills as it relates to our programs. If the board is supporting a bill that does not relate to our program, we are not providing a bill analysis. For an example, I believe it was February where Ms. Lieber presented a bill regarding veterans and income as it relates to income tax. The board voted to support that bill. Income tax is outside of our program. Therefore, we are not providing a bill analysis, nor are we tracking that bill. Last month, I believe the board voted to support SB 663, the wildfires. That is within our program. We are in the process of providing a bill analysis. If that bill is later amended on the Senate floor, we are not going to be in a position to come to this body and say that bill was amended. Do you still want to support the bill? It is upon the members and their staff, and I would say perhaps the member who brought the bill to the board's attention, to track and make a decision on whether or not they want to continue to support the bill. Our role is administrative, legislative research. The board member's role is more policy.
Now, I've got a question, if I could, as it relates to this. Is it possible to have Mr. Angelo track the bills that we support and alert us of amendment changes?
He's tracking the bills that you support to the extent that it is within our program. If it's not within our program, he's not tracking. Okay. Can he notify the members when there's been significant amendments to the bill? I would say now you are having the legislative director, perform duties on your behalf, which would be a violation of Government Code 15600.
Okay, so, but as presented, one of the key points here that Vice Chair Lieber has made is that how the bill is within BOE's jurisdiction, so it has to be germane. So if it's germane, I'm making the assumption, and tell me, but Mr. Angelo could then follow that, right? He could follow that bill and alert us to changes.
He is following, if it's germane to our jurisdiction, he is tracking it, and he is providing a bill analysis. But if the bill is modified, amended throughout the process, it will, I again say, it would be up to the members and the member staff to notify their member that the bill has been substantially changed, and perhaps the board may or may not want to continue to support it.
Okay.
I have already, at least I know that for Member Vasquez's office, I provided your staff with instructions on how to track a bill, and so they would know when it's been changed. Member Gaines, Chairman Gaines, your staff is fully aware of the legislative process and the tracking mechanism, so I'm confident that they will be able to let you know
That's
when
what's
it's been
making me
amended.
nervous.
No, I'm sorry.
Because they can change, right?
It could change, it can
I'm
change,
sure
and they do change a
Vice Chair
lot.
Lieber remembers, like, you might have a particular bill in committee, and then it shows up on the floor and there's an amendment, which could change the bill entirely. Now, maybe that would be a rare occurrence for things that are related to property. I don't know, but probably so.
It could,
But I'm just trying to figure out if things really change dramatically and we're on the hook for a bill that is completely different than what we originally supported. Number one, we only meet monthly, so, it may go through and get voted on, and there's nothing we could do about it. But if there's some tracking, at least you might even put out a press release or some sort of statement saying, hey, this bill has changed, and although I endorsed it in its current form, I don't anymore. So I'm just trying to figure out, is the responsibility really falling on our staff, or can we rely on Mr. Angelo to alert us when amendments do occur that would, change the intent of the bill?
I would say this, that you can ask me to track it and alert you when there's been a modification, and I'd be more than happy to do it. But to ask Mr. Angelo to do it, we will be pushing up against 15,600. But as your executive director.
Even if it's germane?
Yes,
It's a
because
germane
now you're directing Mr. Angelo, and Government Code 15600 says that the board members do not direct staff. But again, you can ask me to do it.
Well, we'd have to ask you, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry, yeah, everything, whenever I ask for any change to occur, it's always through the executive director,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, and
So-
I do tend to track the bills as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And when there's been substantial modifications to the bill, generally we get an alert around 9 PM at night. So I will say this, that for the bills on a go-forward basis, that this board has taken the position on, I will track them. And if there are significant changes to the bill,
Okay.
I will send the board an email.
Okay.
I would do my best to send it the morning of and not
Okay.
at midnight, and let you know that there's been changes to the bill that
Okay.
you're sponsoring, or you're
Great.
supporting.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that Vice Chair Lieber, who's leading this issue, is okay with that, so.
Yes, absolutely, and I think that the germaneness will help with narrowing down the number of bills in the field of play here. And I did mention that we wanted, as part of the guidelines, to preclude spot bills, and it's my own fault that slipped out of the memo somehow. But if I can take a friendly amendment from myself, I would like to have that as part of things, because we have in the past looked at some spot bills, And those are the ones that are most prone to big changes. I do think that the number of gut amends has really been cut down in the legislature by virtue of a much more limited number of bills that any legislator is able to put forward in a 2-year session. And it's always possible to pull off of support or oppose simply by notifying the next committee and by notifying the author.
Yes.
So it's a very simple process. You don't get stuck out on a limb with no way to get back. But I think the executive director has more to add to that.
Yes, a couple of things. First of all, your memorandum does include the line, spot bills should not be included for board support. And based on your earlier comment, I believe that you would like to strike out the following. And requests for support are limited to 3 bills per member each monthly meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. And then second, to go back to our conversation about when a bill has been amended, staff has kindly reminded me that the weekly report that Mr. Angelo submits every Friday indicates if a bill has been amended. So he is tracking it.
Okay.
And he is notifying you guys. So you guys receive that weekly report every Friday before the close of business. And it's sent to all members and their entire staff.
Mr. Chairman, may I make one comment? So what if
yes.
it's a bill that's a huge, huge change or a huge amendment? Will we still get that email from you?
Yeah, I'm still committed to, if there's a significant change on the bill that just changed it completely, I will send you guys an email. Again, I promise not to send it at midnight, because that's when I generally get the alerts, but I will send it the following day.
I mean, are we able to memorialize this in Ms. Lieber's memorandum? Is that okay?
I'd rather not put that in because it might be, I'd have to think about that a little bit, that like each time we took a position on the bill that we would automatically request the executive officer to track it for us. Because I think that there are some bills that are more prone to having a big change and others that aren't. But I'd rather keep the requests within the meeting where we request support or opposition to a bill, rather than having it in the board's governance guidelines.
Okay.
Let me, I'm sorry.
I'm just curious in terms of, so I guess Vice Chair Lieber, can you provide clarity in terms of, it sounds like a lot of this is already happening in terms of Mr. Angelo is giving us a weekly update. So I think Deputy Controller Emron is just looking for a clarification, and correct me if I'm wrong, that in the event that there's a dramatic change, that the executive director would engage with an email to us.
Yes, that's what he's asking.
Isn't that something that could be formalized? I guess that's what I'm just trying to clarify in my mind. And is that,
Email, notification, phone call?
Yeah.
Something that's about to go for a vote in committee or on the floor that you feel like the board members may not be supportive of as we have in a meeting? For example, it gets gutted, it gets changed, it doesn't have to do anything with property tax.
I follow what
We
you're
can
saying.
pull our support, you know?
You know, I'm gonna take a minute, because I've always thought that when the board votes to support a particular bill, it's as of that date. So if the bill is changed, amended, gutted, the board support is no longer there, and, understand? They're all nodding their head.
yeah.
And in that regard,
Please,
I'm
just
sorry.
introduce yourself, please. Yeah. thank you.
Ted Angelo, Legislative Director, Chief for the Legislative Statistics and Research Division. Ms. Stowers is correct. When a bill is amended, whether it's a minor amendment or a substantive amendment, when it goes to its next stop, in order for the for the board members to continue their support, they would have to reissue a support letter for that version of the bill. So when you first submit the letter for the, let's just say the Assembly Rev and Tax Committee, and it passes from that committee, if it's changed in committee and it goes to the Appropriations Committee or to the floor, you would have to submit another support letter if, for the next committee, and also if it's amended for the new version of the bill. And so what I do is for the bills that do have a direct impact to the administration, the board's purview, I send out what the version is. Not where the board has taken a position, but just all the bills that we're tracking, and it has the latest amended version. So I think that covers, in general, like when the bills need to be updated from a position standpoint. I don't know if you have any other questions.
So who has the discretion to make the decision if it's a small amendment or a big amendment that I'm going to continue to support the bill on the board's behalf? Like, you have to resubmit the position letter, correct? As it goes through the process. So how can you support it if we're not notified if there's an amendment, even big or small?
Well, that's pretty much the essence of what we're discussing here today is it's incumbent upon the board members to see if they want to continue supporting the bill if it's been changed, whether it's a minor change or a larger change. And the mechanism by going through Stowers, it sounded like that was the method. You can check against the updates that are sent out, and you can also check online and track them through the Ledge Info website if you are subscribed to a particular bill. But in terms of where you might determine the change and if it needs to be on the agenda, I have to go and defer to legal on that regard.
I think that's like the gap, trying to figure out who's it on to notify us,
right,
if there's an amendment,
because that's outside of my scope.
Just want the members to also be very mindful of this, because we're bringing bills in February that could be amended much later on in June, July.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah, and I would just add, my only trepidation in putting direction to the executive officer in the board's governance. Board's governance manual speaks to the board. And so I think we could leave it informal for us to request that the executive director follow a bill. I obviously follow bills and subscribe to them, so I receive those changes as well. But I think that in the totality of what's here, it does help to put some parameters around which bills we'll be considering. And there's always the possibility that something very different can happen in the legislature. It's much more unlikely now, but there is that, and I think I see the executive officer coming forward for input.
I'm sorry, I was multitasking. I missed some of your comments, but I think you were expressing some concerns with putting it into your governance document, because it's the board's governance document. With respect to the issue that Mr. Emron has raised, that what happens when the bill is amended? How do you guys know if it was amended? What are the next steps? I would just kind of restate that when a member brings a bill to this body for consideration, and the board votes on that to say support the bill, we do provide the letter of support, and we submit it on your behalf, and we indicate at that time that as of, let's say, April 29th, the board voted to support Bill ABCD, and we submit it. Now, as that bill goes through the process, and if it is amended, the board support no longer stands. especially if it's been significantly amended. And it would be upon the board member or members who originally presented the bill to say, members, would you like to continue to support the bill as amended and bring it back to this body and let this body vote? And if the body votes to continue to support, then we will prepare a second support letter saying, as amended, the board voted on this date to support this bill. But again, if the bill is substantially amended, it no longer represents what you voted for, your support does not remain. Okay?
Okay.
That's helpful. And then for those bills that are, you're only, if you're following this policy, you're only going to be providing bills that are within the BOE's jurisdiction, correct? And therefore, if they're within our jurisdiction, Mr. Angelo will be doing a bill analysis. That's his job. And he will provide a weekly update. And you will note on that weekly update that you get on Friday if it's been amended. He will note if it's been amended. So there is the notification. So the member or the member staff could click on that bill and read it and make sure with those amendments that the member is still in agreement with it and whether or not, and make a decision if it should come back to the board.
Okay. Thank you, Executive Director Stowers. And I think Member Vasquez wanted to make some comments.
I think you kind of clarified it, and I was just going to restate that it sounds like we're heading in the right direction in terms of, we're obviously not directing staff, we're directing the executive director, and it's up to her to decide who's the appropriate person to do what we're requesting at the end of the game. And I think she's got a good handle on what we're talking about now. And I think it makes sense, because you're right, at the end of the day, these things, well, we've seen it. We've seen them over the years, how they get modified on the floor.
Yes. Yeah, and I know that, in our earlier discussion with this board, Controller Cohen was very concerned about fiscal impact as to whether she can support some of these bills that are moving forward or not, which makes a lot of sense as controller of the state. And we've included that. So I want to thank you, Vice Chair Lieber, as one of the keys here. How the bill is within BOE's jurisdiction. Is it germane? The policy issue, the fiscal impact, and then administrative impacts on the bill. And then you've got information in terms of a link to the bill's text and a link to the most recent bill analyses. And there's, a lot of opportunity there on the analysis too, which I think is really helpful. Who's supporting it? So I like what's being brought forward here. Any further discussion or comments?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I like it too. The controller likes it. This is like we're getting into a little bit of a slippery slope who makes the final call as the bill passes along, because although it may be dated in February, these bills in the bill analysis on the support side will show Board of Equalization without a date. So just trying to see how this can impact the board. We all have a fiduciary duty to the state. And that's why the controller is also interested in the legislative committee, having 2 members of the board do more of a deeper dive, come back with a formal recommendation. And it's not a Bagley-Keene violation for 2 members to work on bills entirely throughout the process and keep us updated. And I'm just gonna put that out there, and that's something the board should think about too, as we go along this process, because we're supporting and opposing bills much more than we ever have. And if we're gonna dive into the legislative process, then it should be a real deep dive, and it should be within protocol and assurances as well, because every member is putting their signature on this, whether we like it or not. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Emerald. I agree that this body, this board could establish, you can call it a legislative committee, or you can call it a board work group focused on legislation. And it could be 2 members of the board working offline to study the various bills and then bring those bills back to the entire board for action.
And it's not waiting 1 month to hear back. These two members, whoever they are, they can work on it around the clock, reach out to you, and then disseminate that information, correct?
Yeah.
Especially as we go through changes.
Yes, if that's the desire of this body, you guys could establish, I will call it a work group, a board work group, with the members being limited to 2 members.
Okay.
That way we don't get into any Bagley Keene issues, but they would identify the bills, study the bills, track the bills, come up, see what the policy issue is, and then bring it to the entire body for action.
And even be able to testify on behalf of sometimes, right?
Members are always free to, available to testify on bills, and I do, especially bills that this body is supporting. And I know that Mr. Vasquez have testified several times, and so has Vice Chair Lieber.
Good. Well, I'm supportive of that in terms of setting up a
But-
work committee or.
Yeah, but we can't take a vote on a board work group right now because it's not on the agenda.
Yes, okay. So that would be something that we could move forward on. Maybe we could move forward on this, and then we could agendize a work committee for legislation.
Yes.
Yeah, Vice Chair Lieber.
Thank you. Yeah, I would be supportive of agendizing that. I think that there are some mechanical problems in terms of Bagley Keene. And if we had the entire body acting as the work group, then it's the same thing as any member being able to bring forward a piece of legislation for consideration. But I really want to steer away from issues, mechanisms that are less transparent, where we have 2 members and then a 3rd member who is proposing that the board take a position. Then you've got 3 members of the board participating in a process that is not open to the public. And so I have no problem with agendizing that, but I would not be supporting it because I think it decreases the transparency. And we do have an issue with work groups in that once they're formed, they kind of go on forever. They're sort of the undead of the process here on the board. And so I don't want to go too far into that, but I'd like to make a motion that we approve this change to the governance policy as a first step, and one which I think will be beneficial in terms of our discussion of legislation going forward.
I'd second that.
And I should have remarked that that's inclusive of Mr. Vasquez's amendments in terms of placement of the policy, and also deleting the limit on number of bills for each board meeting, but retaining the beginning of that clause that talks about spot bills should not be included for board support. And probably we should say opposition there as well.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, but I'd like to, number one, why don't we open it up for public comment? And do we have anybody in the audience that would like to comment on this item? We don't have anything written. There's no written comments. Therefore, let's go to the AT&T moderator. Please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
Thank you. And if you would like to make a comment on this item, please go ahead and press 1, then 0.
Okay. She say no one was, are we waiting?
And no one's in queue at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you, moderator. And we'll open it up for comment of the board, but we have our executive director.
I'm done. I was just waiting on you.
Oh, okay. All
Well,
right.
I'm sorry. So Okay, you have a motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second, and so,
And I just want to clarify that if the board votes yes to this change in policy, the policy change will take effect immediately. The actual online version of your board governance would be updated at a later date.
okay. And then, well, I guess a comment I'd like to make is that we will bring forward the workshop committee in terms of 2 members serving on a committee that would take a look at these bills. We can agendize that
You guys can,
for a future meeting.
we'll have a placeholder for that for the May meeting.
Okay.
And then June, we'll have a placeholder for that for the June meeting, and I will seek to see which member would like to take ownership of that.
I will.
Okay?
Yep.
We will have a placeholder for the June meeting under Chairman Gaines.
Awesome. That's great. And any other comments that need to be made before we vote on this item? Okay. So let's see. Do we need to repeat the motion, or are we okay?
I think we should, to make it clear that we have
Okay.
these amendments, right?
Very good. Yeah.
Make sure they have the correct amendments.
Okay. So I'd
Yeah,
like
Vice
to,
Chair Lieber.
I can go ahead and read it back,
sure.
if you don't mind. This is Ms. Taylor, Chief of Board Proceedings. To start, the guidelines for presenting a legislative bill for board support or opposition, we've agreed to place that as subsection D, legislative analysis. Pursuant to the board's authority under Government Code Section 15606A to prescribe rules for its own governance and the transaction of its business, and Section 15609 to hold meetings each month at times and places in the state for performing its duties, the board has established these guidelines for presenting a legislative bill for board support or opposition. Recognizing the board's constitutional and statutory responsibilities, the board may consider supporting or opposing bills under consideration by the California legislature and the governor relevant to those responsibilities. Nothing in these guidelines shall be interpreted as restricting or limiting the ability of a board member in their individual capacity as a board member, expressing or communicating in writing or by other means their personal opinion on any legislation or policy issues. Requests to discuss and possibly act on legislation shall be presented timely by board members to the chairman of the board through the executive director and board proceedings. Subject to the chair's approval, the items may be placed on the agenda of the immediately upcoming meeting. Each request for action on legislation shall include a memorandum submitted by the board member requesting such action that addresses the following: how the bill is within BOE's jurisdiction, germaneness, the policy issue the proposed bill is addressing, the fiscal impact of the bill if known, administrative impacts of the bill at the state and local level if known, a link to the bill's text, a link to the most recent bill analyses, if available, prepared by the legislative committees, the Board of Equalization's Legislative Research and Statistic Division, and any other relevant government agency. Spot bills should not be included for board support. That concludes the policy.
Excellent. And the motion would also include the deletions, right?
That did include the deletions, and then.
Oh, you did? Okay, very good.
I just wanted to put forward a friendly amendment to myself to say that spot bills should not be included for board support or opposition.
Okay. Very good. So we've got, Vice Chair Lieber has made a motion, which was just stated, with Member Schaefer seconding that motion. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Let me, just one quick question,
Yeah.
just, I guess, for the public, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vice Chair Lieber, I'm assuming you're making this recommendation on spot bills only because we don't know the content of the bill, basically. Is that correct?
That's right. I think the spot bills are the ones that are prone to go in different directions. And it can't go too far off track, because if it's in, say, the revenue and taxation code, then generally when the bill is in possession of the policy committee, they won't allow you to change it to be, for example, a bill about public health or food safety or anything else. But I think it's better to, as Mr. Emron was alluding to, that when we bring the weight of an established board, that we do it on bills that are fully cooked or as close to fully cooked as possible. And so then we kind of stay out of that area of things that there may be big changes on.
No,
So
that's
you're-
what- that's
you're
what I kinda
entirely
figured.
correct. Yes.
But I just thought it'd be good to put it out there so the public who's listening says, why aren't they supporting spa bills, right? What are they?
Yeah,
Yes.
And what's the
that's
problem?
good.
All right, thanks. I'm
Okay.
good.
Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Yes, okay. Chairman Gaines,
Aye?
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you, members. I think we're all in agreement that we need a 10-minute break. Is that okay? Go ahead and do that. We will reconvene. Let's see, it's 11:09, so we'll reconvene at 11:19. And don't look at that clock up there. You got to look at your watch.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we are now back from our break, and it's 11:24, and we're ready to move forward. I did want to clarify, though, that item 3 is not going to be presented today, so I just wanted to notify you that the Sacramento Municipal Utilities District Land Escape Assessment is not ready to be brought forward right now, and sure it'll be brought forward in a future meeting agenda. Okay, now, members, we will move forward on item 7, which is the California Wildlife Disaster Relief Issues Impacting Recovery and the Impact of Insufficient Replacement Cost Informal Hearing Proposal. And Chair Lieber is presenting this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is a request to hold a 1-hour informational hearing at our May 28th board meeting on California wildfire disaster relief issues impacting recovery and the impact of insufficient replacement costs. There has recently been some very substantial and needed journalism around the impact of algorithmically driven underinsurance of properties across California, especially in wildfire-prone areas. And I think that given our activism around the fire issues, it would be very beneficial to take up this issue and to understand more about what is happening. Recently, the San Francisco Chronicle published a very lengthy and substantive report on alleged underinsurance coverage in areas that have been ravaged by wildfires. The title of this was "A Broken System. Millions in California Have No Idea That Flawed Algorithms and Processes Put Their Homes at Risk of Being Underinsured." There was also a very substantive review of the issue on KQED Public Radio. And we actually touched briefly on this issue at one of our prior hearings about wildfire risk and some of the wildfires in Southern California, talking about the model that is being used in California to estimate replacement costs. And so it's good to see that there is substantive discussion so that homeowners as well as owners of commercial properties are fully apprised of what their rebuilding costs will be and how the algorithms that are driven by private companies are impacting that. I've checked in with staff, and we do have time to do a 1-hour hearing on May 28th, and so I'd like to ask for the board's support in doing that. And I will move that we hold a 1-hour hearing on May 28th to discuss California wildfire disaster relief issues impacting recovery and the impact of insufficient replacement costs. Thank you.
Wonderful. That's, I think that's a great subject issue, and I don't know if members have any questions or comments. Member Schaefer.
I think that's a very important issue. It might not run a full hour, it might run half hour, 45 minutes, I mean, up to an hour. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. Yes. Member Vasquez.
I think it's going to be difficult to keep it within an hour, to be honest with you, but, you know, let's see where it goes. My only suggestion is I don't know if you've thought about any speakers or stakeholders, but, you know, I'll definitely, if you need some assistance or help on that, be willing to work with you on that. Because as I'm going back to, you know, we've had several follow-up meetings, not only in the Palisades, but in Altadena with these folks, and, you know, talking to the senator, both in Pasadena, who's come before us, Senator Pettis, and then also my Senator Ben Allen for the Palisades. You know, this thing's going to take years before they even get close. Actually, my LA assessor, Jeff Prang, this weekend, he did a resource fair in Westchester, specifically on this, and we had nothing but folks mostly from the Palisades and Malibu actually there. And, some of these elderly folks, they just don't think they're gonna be around. I mean, we're looking at 10 years out for some of these folks, especially the ones that lost not only their home, but their business as well. So it's gonna be a challenge. No, I think it's great. I think we need to do it. My only caution is that I think it's gonna take more than an hour, and actually, I wanted to ask, and maybe it's more of a question for our executive director, when we passed, when they brought before the voters Prop 19 on this whole issue, that we were gonna have this fund for the wildfires. I know when I asked it before, to date, I heard it was zero. I'm hoping maybe when we do this hearing, I know you probably don't have the answer now, unless you do, but either way, I think we should, the public keeps asking, or people have been asking me, and says, well, how much is sitting in there? I said, I don't know.
Right.
The Department of Finance is charged with determining, Yvette Starr is Executive Director. The Department of Finance is charged with determining whether or not there is any additional revenue resulting from Prop 19. They issue a memo every September, and the last memo that they issued in September of 2024 indicated $0 in the fund.
Zero, right?
Zero.
That's what I've been hearing.
Yeah.
And here we are, year 5, right?
Yes.
So where's the money going?
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a great question. I like this issue because it's a real problem in terms of determining replacement costs. And I'd be interested in seeing what these algorithms are saying. But certainly there's a difference between someone's individual home burning down and 500 homes burning down, right? And so then you create a market mechanism that's very different. It's like there aren't enough contractors, and there's probably not enough lumber, enough supplies. So is there a better approach to wildfires where you're losing hundreds of homes do you need, I'm just thinking out loud, but what if you had contractors, developers, or that could come in and say, hey, we can provide, some degree of customization, but we can also build in volume and maybe bring a couple of those together to get things going more quickly versus having each individual have to go through all these steps, which are so difficult. And I think a lot of people just give up.
No, I mean, you're right on point.
And
It's
they
interesting
they
you
probably can't
mentioned
afford
that.
it, right? If the prices have gone up
Oh, yeah.
dramatically, you can't even
I
afford
was,
to rebuild, so.
At a VICA meeting with the business folks in the San Fernando Valley, and the folks from Home Depot were there, and they were saying just figuring out a way to maybe even set up a satellite Home Depot in the Palisades would be huge. Because, with the PCH is constantly being, like, this little drizzle, we just had like maybe a quarter of an inch of rain.
Yeah.
It created a mudslide.
Wow.
So now we closed PCH again.
Gosh.
So you can't even get trucks there.
Oh, my gosh.
You can't even get these huge, because these big trucks got to go through there to deliver the goods, the lumber. That's just little basic stuff like that that we don't even think about in the rebuild that's really going to hold this thing up.
Yeah. Good. Well, I'm looking forward to it. If there's anything I can do to help, I'd love to participate in that regard. But we have this item, members, and would someone like to make a motion?
I've already made a motion, so
motion.
I'll second it if you need
We've
it.
got a second. Yeah, thank you.
you.
Okay, so Vice Chair Leeper makes a motion, and we have Member Vasquez who has seconded, but I want to make sure there's not any public comment. I don't believe we have any written comment on this item, and so we'll go to the AT&T moderator. Please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
Thank you. If you want to make a public comment, please press 1, then 0. And there's no one in queue at this time.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Members, any further discussion?
Just
Yes.
one
Vice
brief
Chair
comment.
Lieber,
I just am very open to meeting with and partnering with Mr. Vasquez and others. And I think that we can really kick off the discussion within 1 hour and then delve more deeply into it. It's really clear that that the victims of the most recent fires in January will be subjected to a lot of market forces, the loss of workers that are not fully documented, and the rising costs of lumber, much of which comes from Canada, will be impacted. And it's really essential from a transparency viewpoint to make sure that homeowners and owners of businesses in California have an idea of how deeply they may be underinsured. And this is an issue that's still impacting rebuilding in areas like Paradise. So there's a very long hill to climb for people who have just lost their homes in Southern California this year. And I think that many folks may not realize the ramp that's out there that they're going to have to undergo. So thank you to the board for what I anticipate and hope will be your support on this item. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines,
Aye?
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes.
Chair, just
Thank
a
you.
quick question,
Yes.
and it's maybe more of a question for our executive director. On the 28th, do we know what our agenda looks like? And the reason I bring it up is that, you know, I just wanted to, maybe we should give ourselves a heads up. You know, I don't mind starting the meeting at 9 if we have to on that day, just so we don't have to have a second, because right now I'm assuming it's just a one day, right?
As Yvette Stowers, the meeting for May is scheduled for May 28th. It's a one-day meeting, and we have a full calendar.
I figured.
Including value setting, several property tax cases. I've been informed that I have a report out to do as well. So
Would it be helpful if we started like at 9 that
I
day?
think with the starting earlier
I'm open to it.
creates a problem for staff
Oh.
because they get here before,
No, I know, that's what I'm asking.
yes, so that's not feasible
Okay.
for us.
Are you okay with that time slot, or you could also look at another date?
I'm okay with, spoken with our executive officer about, I know that we can do it in an hour or less.
Okay.
And right now, we're projecting just 2 speakers to
Okay.
just get the conversation going. But obviously, wildfire-related issues are something that we're going to keep discussing
Right.
at our meetings.
Wonderful.
So we'll just kind of get the ball rolling with this item and then go from there.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Lieber. We still have the motion, right, and the second?
Yeah,
We took
just
the
voted
vote,
on
I'm
it, yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So we're good to move on to item 8 then, thank you. And that is Senate Bill 623, Archuleta, and SCA 4, Archuleta. Mr. Vasquez is presenting this item.
Thank you, Chair Gaines. As stated in my memo, I wanted to bring these 2 bills back on board for board support. Senator Archuleta was kind enough to present SB 296 last month, and he also discussed these 2 bills we are considering today as his family of veterans' property tax bills. As he testified last month, SB 623 would allow taxpayers to claim both the homeowner's exemption and the veterans or disabled veterans exemption, which is currently prohibited. SCA 4 would amend the state constitution to authorize SB 623. Now that everyone has had a chance to review these bills, as well as the supplemental info we provided, I believe that we, the board, should show hopefully some support for these. But let me ask if there's any questions before I move a motion here.
Members, any questions on this bill?
Hearing and seeing none, I would like to move that the board support both SB 623 and SCA 4 from Senator Archuleta.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Excellent, okay. Members, any further discussion before I open it up for public comment? Okay, we don't have any written comments. And anyone in the auditorium that would wish to make a public comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll go to the AT&T moderator. Please let us know if anyone is on the telephone line and would like to make a public comment regarding this item on the agenda.
Thank you. And if you would like to make a public comment, please press 1 then 0. And at this time, no one is queuing up.
All right, thank you, moderator. Member Vasquez has made a motion to support SB 623 and SCA 4 with Vice Chair Lieber seconding. Ms. Cicchetti, please call the roll.
Chairman Gaines,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lieber,
Aye.
Member Vasquez,
Aye.
Member Schaefer,
Aye.
Deputy Controller Emron.
Abstain.
Thank you, members.
Okay, all right. Motion passes. Now move to the next item 9, Executive Director's Report, BOE Annual Report Overview. Ms. Stowers. Okay, thank you.
Hello, Yvette Stowers, Executive Director. Members, as you know, we recently published fiscal year 2023-24 annual report, which I will now provide a brief overview of. This report is also available on the BOE website, and copies have just been presented to you. Lovely report. I do have a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to start with slide 2. BOE reports annually to the governor as required by Government Code Section 15616. In the report, and also available on our open data portal, are various data sets related to property taxes, including assessed value of state assessed and locally assessed real personal property in each county and each incorporated city or town. In addition, in the report and available on our open data portal are various data sets on the alcoholic beverage tax and tax on insurer, the other 2 programs that the BOE is constitutionally responsible for. I want to also briefly mention that new for this year's annual report, all the photos that we feature throughout the report are identified by location so the readers know the exact location. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Member Schaefer for that suggestion. Jumping into the numbers, slide 3. Here, you will see a bar graph illustrating the growth of the net assessed values of state and county assessed property. For fiscal year 2023-24, the total assessed value net of exemptions was $8.7 trillion, which includes $8.6 trillion for county assessed properties and $152.2 billion in state assessed properties. There has been a year-over-year increase since 2011. Slide 4. This year's report also includes a statewide map of the annual assessments roll for all 58 counties for the January 1, 24 lien date. The values include both county assessed and state assessed property net exemptions. The darker green shade is the highest net assessed value is for each county. On page 13 of the annual report Each county is listed with their total net assessed value. Slide 5 is another statewide map showing the average property tax rate for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. Members, as you know, Proposition 13, approved by the voters in 1978, limits the property tax rate to 1% of its assessed value. Any additional amount above the 1% are locally voter-approved bond indebtedness. Counties in the purple on the PowerPoint presentation have an average tax rate of 1% to under 1%. Counties in the sky blue have an average tax rate of 1.1, but under 1.15. Counties in the sea green have an increased tax rate of 1.15, but under 1.2. And counties in the dark blue have an average tax rate above 1.2%. Members, as a reminder, these are county-wide tax rate averages, as our tax rate service section maintains over 9,700 revenue district boundaries that encompass 61,733 tax rates areas. As you can see here on slide 6 and on page 15 of the report is a table of the qualified exemptions for the 2024-25 roll. The largest exemption is for the charitable nonprofits, $107.3 billion, and the lowest is the low-value property category at $163 million. As you can see on slide 7 and on page 17 of the report is another table summarizing the total general county property tax revenue. For fiscal 23-24, a total of $95 billion in total local property tax revenue. This is an additional $6 billion, or 7% increase in property tax revenues from fiscal year 22-23 of $89 billion. Our schools receive approximately $51 billion. Local government, such as counties, receive $13.4 billion. Cities, approximately $11 billion, and others, such as special districts, $19 billion. Slide 8. It relates to how the money, this slide shows how the breakdown of the money of property tax dollars. Approximately 54 cents of every dollar goes to the support of our public schools. 14 cents to the counties, 12 cents to cities, 20 cents to other local governments such as special districts. 54 cents to our public schools. Slide 9. On page 18 of the report, as you can see, is a table summarizing the total revenue related to BOE's tax programs compared to prior year. The table also indicates whether the revenue goes to the state's general fund. You will notice that county and state assessed property taxes and tax on insurance programs have seen an increase year over year between 67 to 13%, whereas the private railroad car tax and alcoholic beverage tax had minor reduction in revenue. Slide 10. This graph illustrates how the BOE supports our communities. For fiscal year 2023-24, we are proud to report that a total of $101.5 billion in fiscal contributions, over $100 billion from the first time in fiscal year 23-24 supported state and local governments. $3.6 billion goes to the state general fund, with revenues from tax on insure at $3.2 billion, the alcoholic beverage tax $418 million, and the private car private railroad car tax at a 10.2 million. 97.9 billion goes to our local governments, with 95.3 billion from county assessed property taxes and 2.6 billion from state assessed property taxes. Slide 11. Members, as you know, property taxes are one of the primary sources of revenue for California counties, cities, schools, and special districts. While the state does not rely on property taxes as a source of revenue, there are revenue implications for the state if they are incorrectly assessed on real property. State law guarantees California schools a minimum amount of funding, and the state is responsible for backfilling shortfalls in education funding under Proposition 98. This is why BOE's role in overseeing the assessment practices of the state's 58 county assessors, who are charged with establishing the value for over 13 million assessments each year, is so important. Each of the BOE's constitutional and statutory duties is critical to promoting a consistent and uniform property tax system throughout the state. In fiscal year 23-24, the BOE accomplished the following. The BOE conducted and issued 10 assessment practice surveys or compliance audits, provided guidance to county assessors in the form of promulgating property tax rules, issuing 57 advisory letters to the county assessors, and updating 3 assessors' handbooks. Prescribed property tax form to be used by county assessors statewide. In fiscal year 23-24, BOE amended 24 of these prescribed forms, provided training and certified individuals performing the duties of appraiser and assessment analyst for property tax purposes, including newly elected county assessors. BOE trained approximately 2,252 students through 35 BOE-hosted courses, available web-based self-study courses, and additional courses at local colleges and universities. The BOE also issued 330 permanent and advanced appraisal certification and 8 permanent and advanced assessment analyst certifications. BOE acts as an advisory agency on property tax assessment, and in fiscal year 23-24, BOE answered approximately 11,000 calls and 11,000 inquiries by letter, fax, or email. Also, the BOE published new and updated education materials and information for taxpayers and stakeholders to assist with the understanding of property tax laws. Slide 12. To continue, the BOE co-administers the welfare exemption with county assessors. In fiscal year 22-24, the BOE issued 822 organizational clearance certificates and 346 clearance certificates, supplemental clearance certificates. The BOE also reviewed 1,894 verification filings of organizations holding an organization clearance certificate to ensure continued eligibility for the welfare exemption. The BOE also administers the Legal Entity Ownership Program, also known as LEOP, which aims to discover any changes in control and ownership of legal entities. BOE identified 986 changes in control in fiscal year 23-24, resulting in a reassessment of 11,173 reportable parcels. BOE also acts as a clearinghouse for various claims for property tax relief under Proposition 3, 19, 58, 60, 110, and 193. BOE also monitors duplicate claims granted under the homeowner and disabled veterans exemptions. In fiscal year 23-24, the BOE provided critical guidance related to Proposition 19 and answered 4,585 calls and 569 emails regarding Proposition 19. Slide 13. Members, as you know, the board is required by law to hold a meeting with the county assessors at least 1 year. As you can see, this is the group photo from the 2024 annual meeting held here in this auditorium. In addition to the board's annual meeting with the assessors, the BOE meets regularly throughout the year with county assessors to discuss issues related to the administration of assessment of taxation, laws, and ways to promote statewide uniformity. Slide 14. The BOE State Assessed Properties Division directly assesses telephone, gas, and electric companies, independent power producers, regulated railroads, and intercompany pipelines, which are not subject to Proposition 13. The board in 2024 adopted $152.5 billion in assessment property values for 321 companies, from which schools and local communities are expected to receive approximately $2.6 billion in property tax revenue. The BOE completed 19 property tax audits and physically inspected and valued 8,884 state-assessed land parcels. The BOE has also processed 597 statement of land changes. The BOE State Assessed Property Division Tax Area Service Section also maintains maps of more than 9,700 revenue district boundaries that encompass 61,773 tax rate areas. Finally, the BOE processed 365 jurisdictional boundary changes in fiscal year 23-24, resulting over $425,000 in revenue to the state's general fund. Last slide. In addition to the highlights I have shown today, the annual report also includes profiles of these programs we administer, information about BOE's governance responsibilities, enacted legislation, court cases, and the impact programs that we administer. This report is accumulation and a reflection of the critical work we do at the BOE on behalf of the state, schools, and local communities. Members, you should be proud of the agency that you lead, and I know you join me in thanking all the BOE employees for their hard work, dedication, and accomplishments during fiscal year 23-24. As I mentioned earlier, the full report is available to all stakeholders and available on our website. That concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Wonderful. Thank you, Executive Director Stowers. Members, questions? Yes.
Thank you,
Member
Chair
Vasquez.
Gaines. Ms. Stowers, thank you for this report. As I'm looking through it, I had just a couple of quick questions. I guess it's regarding some qualifying exemptions on page 6, where the report overview, I noticed that the exemption value of charitable nonprofits is higher than the value of any other listed exemption type at over $177.3 billion. Can you give me an idea what kinds of nonprofits are included in that category? Page 6, slide 6.
Okay.
You got charitable nonprofits at 177 billion there.
Oh, charitable nonprofits, those will include hospitals, churches, affordable housing. I'm sorry.
I mean, those
So
are
a
the
lot of
biggest
it,
ones, I
a
imagine.
lot of it is affordable housing.
Is it? Okay.
And it's been a very strong push for affordable housing, and so that's why you see the increase.
Yeah, people, I think, forget that many hospitals are nonprofits, right, or run through nonprofits.
Right.
I kind of figured, I wasn't sure if I thought maybe there was something else, because that's a high number. I was just curious. Because there's a lot of hospitals, too, if you look throughout the state, right? The second question I had is on page 9. The revenue summary on page 9. The report overview shows the current year's revenue for alcohol beverage tax and the private railroad car tax have decreased slightly. Can you explain what happened there? I guess from that one year to the next.
For the alcohol beverage tax, there's just been a decrease in consumption. A decrease in
Oh,
consumption.
decrease, oh,
For the railroad car tax, I cannot explain the small 1% decrease. Maybe a car came off the road.
May I?
Yes.
For the record, David Young, Deputy Director of Property Tax Department. So that is for year 23, 24. As you could recall, that we were actually coming off of COVID. And part of the private railroad car, the way it's calculated in California is its presence in California and the value. So it's a proration. It's basically a reflection of just a little less traffic being carried through California.
Carrying out in California.
Yeah,
Weren't there some issues at the ports,
I'm sorry.
at our ports? Weren't there some issues with bottlenecks at the ports? I don't know if
There-
it falls
yes,
into that.
yes.
Into that budget year or
Right.
not, but.
Yeah, so it's a multitude of issues, but mostly it's the lagging effects of the economy coming out of COVID.
Okay.
COVID was a big piece of it.
Yeah.
And then the last one is more on the tax. I couldn't find any data on the insurance tax assessed against companies authorized to do business in California, which, as we've been discussing and currently in highly significant issues. Can you tell us where this information is found? Is it somewhere else in here?
The tax on insurer,
Yeah, for those that are doing business in California.
where is it found? I mean, it's in the,
I didn't see it in here, that's how I was. Or is it embedded in one of these slides?
it's embedded, it's on the slide 9, the tax.
Is it on 9?
Yeah. Current year tax on insurer in the prior year, and it was a 6% increase. And then page 26, we talk about tax on insurers.
Yes.
Do you need more? You want more data on, are you asking for more?
Is there more, I guess is there somewhere else we can find that
What?
in the
It's
report?
available through our open data portal?
Is it?
Yes.
Okay,
It's on our website.
thank you. I'm good.
All right, members, any other questions? Yes, okay. Why don't we start with Member Schaefer if we could, and work this way.
Thank you. I noticed on page 4 and 5, you had a multicolored counties. There's no legend telling us, that green means this and blue means this. Is there something we need to know there?
It doesn't show it on the PowerPoint presentation, but if you go to page 13 and 14, you get the detail on the actual annual report.
Oh, yeah.
You see the detail and why it's shaded different colors?
Oh, yeah, it'll be the annual report.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to page 11. We do 10 assessment survey reports for which are compliant audits. I don't know if, how often a given county gets audited. Is it every 3 years, every 8 years? Or do we draw names out of a hat as to who we do this year?
That's a very good question. I'm going to have Mr. Young explain that process on who's selected for a survey and sample and the timing.
Of course. Once again, David Young, for the record, Deputy Director of the Property Tax Department. So in general, the way our survey program works right now, it's on a 5-year cycle. So every 5 years, we start a new cycle. The top 10 counties by assessment value, they get both a sample and a survey, 2 per year. So in 5-year cycle, we get 10. The next counties arrayed by value, 11 through 20, 1 gets surveyed, 1 gets sampled every year. So, and then the remainder, counties 21 through 58, 3 get surveyed and 2 get sampled. And in any one year, anywhere from 2 to 3 counties are not chosen by random, and they get what we basically call a bye. They get neither sample nor survey. So in general, that's how we work it, and that's how it's provided by statute.
So
how
our
we
least
choose it.
populous counties could go for a decade without ever being sampled. It's sort of
Some,
whoever's chosen.
some of the smaller counties in that third tier, 21 through 58, can go 2 cycles without getting surveyed or sampled, depending on the luck of the draw.
I just don't want anyone to become complacent, like they're never gonna be checked out.
Yeah.
Okay. Then on page 12, on Prop 19, we got 4,585 calls and 959 email inquiries. We didn't get any US mail. People don't use that anymore.
I think I did say mail, didn't I?
You did in page 11, not page 12.
I'm sorry. Let me look at page 12. Most of our inquiries are done by email. I can guarantee you that.
Okay.
But if they do write us, we will respond.
We respond by
We will
email or
respond if
regular
someone
mail?
does send us by mail, but most of our inquiries is email and telephone.
Okay, and I have a question on page 13. We have 58 assessors, only 16 of them, or 27%, are pictured here. I assume we had a much bigger turnout at the event, and some of them didn't get into the picture. And are there some assessors who never attend the meetings that I'm never going to meet?
For this particular annual meeting with the assessors, we did have a huge turnout. Many were in person and many were online.
Oh,
And when we took the picture, we tried to do the Brady Bunch thing on that screen and have their pictures there, but it did not work out for us.
sure. 'Cause I
Most
know-
assessors do attend this annual meeting. All members are meeting with their assessors within their district on a regular basis.
Yes.
And most of the members attend the assessors conferences so they can continue with the collaboration.
And I don't see Jeff Prang or Jordan Marks here, but I know they were at the meeting, so we could expect to get everybody for the photo.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
okay.
All right. Is that it, Member Schaefer? Okay, so we've got Deputy Controller Emron.
Thank you, Ms. Stowers. I believe when the controller started here with a lot of these members, I think the property tax collection was at 79, 80 billion, and now it's nice to see it almost at $100 billion, especially, as mentioned earlier, the California economy is growing, 4th largest now in the world. So the chairman and I and the controller are on the franchise tax board. They collect 150 billion. Couple that with 100 billion, he has $250 billion. A lot of big numbers. I had one question, actually I had 2 questions. One of them was about Proposition 19. I looked at the inquiries here. I didn't get to see the data for last year. Has the inquiries increased from last year? Has it remained steady? Has it decreased in terms of calls and emails?
It remains steady. We still receive a great deal of calls, whether it was from the assessor's office or from the public regarding Prop 19.
Okay, good. And then one other question, the controller asked the franchise tax board as well when we hear highlights and accomplishments is some of the things that you believe the Board of Equalization can work on in the next year, some of the shortcomings or gaps that you feel like this board can do better at and just kind of continue to improve.
The board itself, I think the board should just continue to reach out to their constituents and continue to provide that critical oversight.
And then from an organizational perspective, is there any critiques or anything that you feel like this board should be aware of and things that we can all maybe huddle together to work on in the next fiscal year?
Any critiques from an organization perspective on where you guys could help us?
I don't want to put you on the spot. You can think about it too.
I would have that conversation with you offline because there's always room for improvement and we always need assistance.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, great. Vice Chair Lieber, would you like to make any comments in reference to this?
Well, I'd just love to give my compliments to staff on how well put together it is and the great graphics representations of the various funds and what the contribution of the money goes to in terms of the public. And I feel that this is a great document that we can point our constituents to on the web, and it'll be very easy for folks to grasp right away in the year-over-year changes. So thank you so much.
Thank you, staff.
Wonderful, yeah, yeah, I want to chime in also. I think this is the best annual report I've ever seen. I really like the way it's presented, like the graphics, like the breakdown by county. So kudos to, is that Peter and Lisa putting that together? I'm just trying to,
It's all Peter.
okay,
Peter
all right.
Kim worked very hard on this report.
Well, thank you.
It goes through various levels of review, but this is one of his main assignments.
Excellent. Well, I know we've been asking for some more data from Lisa on other areas, so I want to compliment her too. And both of you, though, for helping, very much appreciated. And on that note, I think we will go ahead.
Ted, I'd like to ask, we print about 100 copies of this, do we?
I don't believe we print 100. Mr. Kim, how many did we print? Very few? Less than 50 or 60. We provided you guys with hard copies.
Well, you got to give one to every assessor. Their pictures in it.
We're sending them an electronic version of it.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, you got that clarification? All right. So we are going to go ahead and take a 60-minute lunch break. And let's see, we'll reconvene at 1:10. Is everybody okay with that? All right, thank you. I love this.